Hey, what's up, everybody? It is Will Kern from Endless Entertainment, and we are back here for hashtag Event Icons, episode 13. Hopefully, it's going to be a lucky one for sure. We are back. It's been about a month since our last show. For those who did not know, I decided to move the show from weekly, which was absolutely outstanding, getting to see all of your bright, shining faces every single week, to monthly, though. Unfortunately, I have been traveling way more than I probably should be, living out of hotels and Airbnbs. I just got back from Banff, Canada, and Miami, Florida, so literally traveling the entire world, and needed a little bit more time, unfortunately, to run the company and get everything going. And I want to make sure that I could produce an awesome show for you guys. So we moved it to monthly, and we're going to focus on getting you guys the best of the icons of the events industry, literally the shining stars, the greatest people producing the biggest and baddest events. That's what we're here for. So nothing has changed. The content is still the same. Don't worry. We're just moving to monthly. But you guys kind of know that this show is all about getting to meet the most awesome people in the events industry. Well, one of the great things about this show that makes it a little bit different than most podcasts or interview shows is that it's not about me asking just the questions and saying, hey, John, tell me about your experiences in XYZ. This is about you, the audience, getting to ask the questions. So throughout the show, if you have any questions at all for our guests, I ask you to basically go in the chat panel over on the right-hand side. And if you type /Q, like my good friend Sean from Crowd Mics has done already, you can ask a question to our awesome, esteemed panel of amazing ladies in the events industry, and basically get your questions in, and we would love to answer them. So throughout the show, ask questions about anything you'd like. You can even ask me about my shoe size. 9.5. So we're going to jump in right on in here. But before we do that, one more thing. If you guys, like I said, it's about you, the audience, and getting just awesome community. Right now, the chat is blowing up. We got a ton of you guys excited to be here. So if you could just take a couple of seconds and just go on the left-hand side. There's a tweet and Facebook button. If you can just smash up that button a couple times, share this with all of your friends, your Twitter followers. Let's get this out and in front of as many people as possible so we can get an awesome conversation going today on hashtag Event Icons. So share that out. Let's get it going. And you know what? Let's just not waste any more time. I really want to jump in this one because this is going to be just absolutely awesome conversation. So my guest today, I wanted to center it around the women of the events industry. We have some absolutely awesome ladies in the house today who are just doing some absolutely killer stuff that I just had to get in here. So I'm not going to waste any more time, and let's get them in here really, really quickly. So the first person that we have is Marie Claire Andrews. Marie is an absolute rock star. And, we talk a lot about event tech, and this girl, she knows event tech for sure. So we'll let her kind of explain a little bit further as far as how she got to where she is now and got her into the events industry. But the founder and CEO of ShowGizmo, Marie Claire, thank you so much for being here.
Oh, it's a privilege. And hello from Thursday morning. The future is good.
The future's good. Okay, we're still alive on Thursday morning.
Exactly. The world is still here.
Awesome.
Awesome. To be here. Yeah.
Awesome. So let's bring in our second guest, Carrie Abernathy. She's an absolute rock star coming from San Diego, where it is. I'm really jealous. It's way beautifuler than here. Snapchatting it up. Carrie is, she has the absolute amount of all the certifications you could have. So she CMP, CEM, and also CSEP. Literally, she has them all. So she's an expert of the events industry. Really, really happy to be here. She's a co-founder and president of the Association for Women in Events. She's a director of education, training, and events at Practice Green Health, and also the president and founder, CEO of Abernathy Consulting. So
hey.
We are just so happy. Thank you for being here, Carrie. It's such an honor. So we're running into a little bit of technical difficulties with our third guest, but hopefully Dana will be able to join in here. So fingers crossed. So if Dana jumps in, we'll get her in here. But we really want to get this conversation started and get you guys so everyone can learn about all the awesome things that you guys are doing. So once again, thank you guys so much for being here.
And the best bit is, even though Carrie and I know each other and work together, this is the first time we've ever met. So
yes,
yeah, exactly.
That's one of the best parts about this show is that there's a lot of times where, there's people who have worked together on shows and things like that, but never had this physical communication. So thank you for Blab and technology of today, right?
Thanks for connecting us.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome.
And I will be Snapchatting this whole thing. So everyone,
watch
be
out.
prepared.
So if you want to follow you on Snapchat, what's your Snapchat like username?
It's Carrie.Meadows. Super simple.
Awesome. Perfect.
I'll put it up on the side too.
Awesome. So if you want to catch it on Snapchat so you can be like Meta and watch two things at once, you can totally do that.
Multitasking, that's what we do.
Multitasking all day long. All right, cool. Awesome. So I'm going to jump into my questions. But again, for all those people who are tuned in right now, if you type /Q and your question, we'd love you guys to ask all the questions of these awesome ladies we have in the house. But I'm going to start with the first question I always ask every single person is, what got you into the events industry? Well, let's start with you, Carrie.
Oh, man. So I was studying psychology in college. And I had a few friends tell me that I should be an event planner. And I said, that's definitely not a real job. Now I know that it is. And unfortunately, at the time, there was not a program for me to study at Virginia Tech where I was in college. So I went to my study abroad office and I said, hey, are there any programs overseas where I can study events? And luckily, Victoria University in Melbourne, Australia did have an event program. So I was able to go overseas, study events for a year and came back, and I got really lucky. I got picked up right after college, and I've been in ever since for 12 years now. So I'm a lifer.
And that's where you got all the experience to have all those awesome certifications too, right?
Somewhere along the way, they picked me up. Yeah.
Awesome.
I didn't realize you've been down under. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's cool. That's where I get to live.
Yeah, brilliant.
I'm jealous because I've been to Sydney once and it was like one of the greatest places I've ever been. So I need to make it back soon.
It was a pretty great year. It was supposed to be 6 months and somehow it turned into a year.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. And then Debbie had a really quick question. Where are you now, Carrie?
I am in San Diego, but I work out of a DC office.
Awesome. Cool.
I'm everywhere.
Hotels and Airbnbs, right?
Hotels all the time.
Awesome. Cool. And Marie Claire, tell us your story. How did you get involved in ShowGizmo?
Well, ShowGizmo actually was born out of a previous company I started. We were selling virtual events technology, and we were doing it about 7 or 8 years ago. And the technology was rubbish, and the internet was rubbish, and it was all just way too early. So we stopped that business, but took all the good things that came out of it, data and extending the life of events and getting information to people in the way they wanted on their phones. And that's how ShowGizmo was born. But my first events experience was actually my very first job here in New Zealand. I applied to be the event manager for the big university here and actually did my interview through video conferencing like this. And that actually was 100 years ago when the internet was terrible. And so I had these blobs on the screen to interview with, but they gave me the job. And so I learned how to run events. But then the geek inside me kind of took over and I went from planning to geekery. And along the way, the virtual events technology business happened and then ShowGizmo.
Cool. And then, so for those who don't know what ShowGizmo is, can you kind of explain, you got a little bit of the details behind you right there. Can you tell everyone a little bit about what ShowGizmo does and how you guys make the planning process easier? Yeah.
So it's one event app to rule them all, to take a saying from Lord of the Rings, which was made just down the road from us. We're an event app. So we're a show guide and a networking tool and a matchmaking tool. And we integrate the awesome crowd mics feature in so we can turn your phones into microphones at events, which is brilliant. Yes, super great. And we've been working with trade shows and conferences and award ceremonies and boat shows and all sorts of events around the world for about 5 years. So we've done thousands of those events. And we basically have an awesome team of people who have all got events backgrounds. So we guarantee uptake. And we do all the strategic services and support and advice for the planners so that they get the most out of the app. So we know you can tick a box and have an app, and there's lots of really great apps like ours out there, but we like to just put a little bit of magic around the edge and help people have a really good time with the event app and save some money, save paper, and have a good time with it.
Awesome. And are you guys doing events like all over the country? Are you guys doing stuff all over internationally? Where are the events that you guys are using ShowGizmo?
Yeah, so our home turf is Australia and New Zealand, so that we're the #1 event app over here. So every month we're doing maybe 70, 80 events here, which is pretty great. And then we've got a team in the Middle East, so we do shows in Bahrain and Abu Dhabi and Dubai. Someone over in the UK, so we're doing events over in England. And then we've also got Debbie, who I can see is with us. She's based in Denver, so we're doing events around there. We've got Crystal in Orlando, so events in Florida, and Shamadi in DC. So all over the place.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So that's just not Antarctica, but they don't go there.
I don't know if anyone wants to do an event. I mean, if you do an event on Antarctica, I mean, like, has anyone even, I don't even know. That just sounds crazy.
Penguins? Yeah.
Party with the penguins. That's a good one. Right there. Sounds like a free gala event.
Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. So what would you guys say? I mean, like, so you guys both have a massive amount of like industry expertise. I mean, just between the two of you, like dozens of years of experience. What would you
make
guys
us old? Careful.
Dozens.
Hey, whoa. I mean, you guys are like 1 or 2 years older than me. Okay. So you guys are good. So between, you know, the experiences that you guys have had, I'm sure you guys have a ton of awesome stories, which I want to hear more of these awesome stories. But what would you guys say is the toughest challenge that you've faced when it comes to planning and working in events?
Wow.
Carrie, you go.
Yeah, you know what? I have so many. I have at the bigger picture wise, it's always doing more with less. Always having your budget cut, but it being expected to produce, you know, the biggest, best, brightest, sexiest, newest technology, the biggest show possible. So and less staff, less money, less resources. So for me, that is always a struggle that I'm dealing with. And I think my solution, it always comes down to partners and suppliers and vendors. And working with the best vendors who understand your show and your needs and your attendees' needs, and who can really listen to you and work with your budgets. And, I always fall back on my vendors as the experts in the industry, really, to kind of push new technology to me and push me through the difficult times. So I think that would be kind of my number one bigger picture go-to.
So, you know, engaging your stakeholders, specifically your vendors. I mean, sometimes people forget about your vendors, right? Everyone thinks about the attendee experience, right? What would you say you do to cultivate? It sounds like you have really great relationships with your vendors. What do you do to build that rapport so quickly and to be able to work with them? Is it just a time thing, or is there something that you can kind of do to make that relationship deeper?
Not always. There's a lot of research that goes into finding the right vendor. You have to know your show and your budget beforehand and be a smarter purchaser before you even go into looking for these relationships. And they are relationships. I feel really strongly about developing real connections and real relationships with the people that I'm going to be working with day in and day out. So for me, it's doing my homework, looking at all of the different options and then building really strong professional relationships, sometimes personal friendships with these people who you're working with for many, many hours each week throughout the year.
And it'd be interesting to talk a bit more about that, because there's crowd mics here and social tables, and that's we're vendors. How can we behave better? Like what makes for a good relationship from your point of view? What should we be doing more of or less of, or keep doing the same?
This could be a whole hour. We could go at least a full hour on this one. We'll talk offline.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
We can move on.
I was just saying, why don't we have Marie Claire explain her toughest challenge, and then let's circle back. And I think that's a great conversation for us to have for sure. Is how can us as vendors be better for the planners as well? So
the thing that we come across, given that there's ShowGizmo and lots and lots of other choices of event apps out there, is how planners actually make a good choice. There is so many things to look for, to choose from in all the different technologies, different registration, different social platforms, different event apps, all of those things, and just the ability to choose between them and understand what quality looks like and what the criteria they're using to actually make a good selection. I think that, in my experience of working with planners, is the hardest thing. And often they do fall back onto relationships because at least they feel like the vendor has got their back, but it may not necessarily be the right product or service, but they're possibly unsure about how to make those changes. So I think it's that choice that in this world where there's a million things to choose from and 7 new startups coming out every day with new things to look at. So, I mean, some of the planners we work with that do it well, we'll go to trade shows and we'll read some blogs and we'll post some good resources up later. And obviously also doing really, really good reference checking and just sort of asking their peers and going off the referrals and recommendations. So I guess I've kind of answered my own question in terms of what vendors can do better, is just be awesome. And then you get referrals and recommendations.
Just be awesome.
Yeah, so it's easy. Just yeah.
Do you usually find that, like with planners, I mean, we find this all the time as well, that they're sometimes hesitant, like you were saying, to switch and change, services or whatever it may be. Do you think that there's ever a fear level of switching your vendors just because you rather at least have a good relationship and, it's got your back versus switching to something that actually might be better? Do you see that happen a lot?
Yeah, I do, particularly for us. So we're a new product coming into a market with some existing competition, and that's one of the conversations we're having quite regularly is, what about this company that's come from the other end of the world where maybe people have grass skirts and big pointy ears and very big things aren't a little bit risky? And it's totally a valid point because, especially in the planning cycle when things become frenetic and there's a lot of unspoken understandings build up over a period of years. You can't always project manage everything to the last degree. There's a sense of innate and subconscious connection between vendors and planners often, and that's a challenge for people to trust. But I guess the answer really is in their own self-confidence often, that they actually do know how to make those choices and they run their events fantastically. But also, I guess we have to be patient and build up really good case studies and prove that it's not a frightening thing to do. And just continue to be awesome over and over again.
Yeah, I think it's so easy for planners to slip into the routine, especially when something is working out really well and you do have good relationships and the pricing model does work. It's easy to, check that off your list and not have to worry about going to RFP or, but I think for me, I push myself every few years because technology is evolving so quickly. And I know that, the latest and greatest my current vendor may not have, they may have it, but I want to give them the opportunity to provide me with that information and make the case that they still are the best fit for me, for my attendees. And I think it's good practice for us as event planners to look at just keep your eyes open, keep eyes open at shows that you go to and events that you attend. And you really are doing a disservice to your customers and attendees if you don't go and stay on top of the best technology out there, or the best partners for your attendees.
And this might tie slightly into the question that we want to discuss too as well, is that do you feel like there's a need for almost this like re-RFP your vendors sometimes and be like, hey, I want to double check you. But the question is like, me as a vendor, when I feel like I'm doing really well, everything's going great, and all of a sudden we're going to bid, I'm like, but wait, everything's going so well. Why would you do this? And I feel like slightly, I mean, this is going to sound super lame, but my heart is slightly broken, Yeah,
I get that. I just had this conversation with someone the other day, with a vendor actually. No, I think you have to do a really good job of prefacing the conversation by saying, look, I'm just doing my due diligence here. And I'm confident in you as a vendor. So be confident and bring back, something really incredible and exciting, and we don't have to worry about it. So it's kind of good to keep you on your toes sometimes.
Absolutely. It's, keep us fresh and keep us going. Like, what are the catfish saying? It goes. Awesome. Well, I want to jump into that question that you guys asked, because I think the chat just blew up the second that you asked us, Marie Claire. And maybe we'll start with you as far as what maybe you see on the vendor side, and then we can flip to Carrie on the planner side. Is how can vendors be better for the planners? How can we make sure that we're going the extra level? And obviously, this can be very granular to specific things like caterers and decor companies, AV companies. But maybe we start with just a really broad level of vendorship in general.
So I guess, so one of the things that I'm interested to explore is the extent to which the personal relationships are really important, or whether there is more of a focus on the product and the service and the cost. So like the ratio of the decision-making around those personal relationships. The other piece of it is I'm seeing a lot of content coming out from vendors now about educating planners about technology and maybe trying to inspire them. But sometimes I wonder if maybe that's actually a little bit patronizing, and maybe vendors overstep the mark in terms of telling planners how they should be doing their job, as opposed to how we will be contributing to it to be easier or better or more successful. And so are you seeing, Carrie, people crossing that line a little bit? Do you ever feel like maybe sometimes the vendors are trying too much to, they're over helping and actually patronizing a bit?
Yeah, you have to be careful. There definitely, it happens for sure. But we actually, on the Women in Events blog, we just had a vendor partner write a blog piece on being a better purchaser. Coming from the view on how women are natural networkers and relationship builders, and not so much, just talking at the group. So, I mean, there's the right way to go about it. I won't say that I know everything, so I know that I have a lot to learn, and I'm open to that. I don't know if everyone is. So there is a fine line that you have to dance. So I'm glad that you brought that up.
Yeah.
It's very interesting. Yeah, I thought that whole idea that you're saying, like, how much do you balance having a great service with being about relationships? And sometimes you see some people are very much focused on the service, and it goes case by case, right? You have some planners who are just like, I have to have the newest, shiniest thing. And like, if you can't give it to me, boom, relationship gone. Let's move on. But then you have some people who are like, I will stick to whatever works because I love this guy. He's like family to me, right? What would you guys say is one tip for building, since we talked so much about relationships, like what's one tip that you have for building great relationships in the industry? So for example, is it, take them to your favorite restaurant to go get burritos, which is like kind of like my thing, I think, here in Phoenix.
Okay, I'll write that down for how to stay happy with Will. That's good to know.
Best burritos ever.
Okay, good. I think mine's a little bit more esoteric, but it's showing up and then staying there. So being visible and present. So it's at networking events over and over again. It's not sort of dipping your toe in and then disappearing. So that somehow that actually, if you show up and then you stay showed up, then that's integrity. That's when people know they can find you, that they can rely on you. I think that's how good relationships are built, is that people know you're not going to disappear. And that's important for us, particularly because we're all over the world. So we have to work really hard at showing up and then staying there and just being available. So it's one of the reasons that I wanted to join the Association for Women in Events, because then I can be at the table and learn what's going on in the US and be present and connected to it, as opposed to, sitting here in Aussie and in New Zealand and trying, but not being connected into it. So
you can't see me right now, but I'm giving you major props. Like,
oh, I see the numbers. Thanks.
Nice job. Nice answer. Yeah. For me, it's all about that customization as well. I so agree with you. I'm just not another show. I'm just not another client. And my needs are very, very different, very custom. So, doing your research, doing your homework, knowing not to call me even the week of my show or a month before my show when I'm completely slammed. And obviously, I can't even get into start a relationship. Just kind of knowing those even small things is so lovely and nice, and makes me think that you're going to be a good partner in the long run and that we're going to have a great relationship.
One little tip that I got from a planner really, really early on in ShowGizmo's experience was, don't call me the next day for feedback. That's when I'm chilling out, getting over it, taking a Nurofen, having 2 vodkas, whatever I need to do. Like, I actually don't want to talk about it the next day or the day after. Give me some space. Right. And so that was really helpful, because we were always like, how did it go? And then I want to just not straight away. So that respect, I guess, of the patterns and cycles that the planners are going through is something we vendors should really know about.
It's all about respect. And, it's mutual, and it goes for planners too, making sure that when we do tap into you and need an RFP and we're, requiring a quick turnaround period, that we reach back out to the vendors, and we do a good job of keeping the lines of communication open both ways. So, it's not a one-way street. We're not taking everything from the vendors. We really want to, if you really want to build that relationship, I think as planners, we really have to do a good job of, letting our vendors and suppliers know where we're at in the bid process, and really give them some great background in the RFPs, and be open to taking questions and getting on the phone when needed. So I know that's difficult because planners, I know we don't have a lot of time, but think of it like any personal relationship that you want to grow. And I think once you hit that point, then you really find some successful partnerships.
Awesome.
I just saw a question from Social Tables there about how we provide content. We try, one of the things in terms of, that message about respectful, is we try and use as many different channels as we can with different levels of messaging, so that the planners can pick and choose what works for them. So we have some regular newsletters that are very much just around what's happening in the industry and awesome things that we've seen that we can share. We also have some more deep dive content, more like white papers that are more involved in the specific technology. So why is crowd mics awesome? And, what can you do with Q&A. So actually starting to think about the event design elements of what we can help with. So there's those, and then there's some videos, and then actually we do a lot of speaking. So we like to go around to conferences and actually present our research and our ideas and our thoughts face to face, because then we get the double whammy. We get to talk about the industry and share that information and content, but also meet face to face. So that's how we do it.
Speaking of content as well, so like at Endless, one of our big things is making multi-platform. So you kind of talk about how you guys are doing, not just the speaking engagement, but also doing the newsletter and the email and everything like that. Love it, because I think one of the things too as well is providing multiple formats for everyone. So for example, doing some video webinars, doing things like live blabs where people can ask questions for us. So we're all over the place when it comes to a lot of the content, but we definitely think that it's almost a innate, like, I mean, I'm talking like I'm preaching to the choir. I see like so many awesome people doing content. We have crowd mics, social tables. You guys, Remy, Claire, are doing some awesome stuff at ShowGizmo. And so, I think that content is just a huge part of the industry, and it's a way that we can all share this awesome knowledge that Carrie has developed over the years. Carrie, you've obviously been in the industry for a while. What kind of content as an experienced planner would you want to see for all those vendors out there as well? Like, are you looking for, the tips and tricks, or are you looking for trends, or what kind of content are you digesting these days?
Oh man, for me, it's all about bite-sized information right now. I love PCMA's news junkie that comes in with just a few headlines in the morning. Unfortunately, I rarely have time to get in and kind of do a deeper dive. But when I do, I love going to actual conferences, the networking side of conferences, sitting in a few sessions. But more than anything, building those one-on-one relationships, and then kind of digging in and the vendor can come back with something more custom for me. But again, bite size is everything right now. But I do agree with you, Will. I like the giving people the option of many different platforms, because some days I do have a chance to sit down and watch a webinar. And then some days I can sit down and, flip through a full Smart Meetings magazine. So just having options is a great place to start.
Are you usually finding, so like, obviously you're engaged on Snapchat a lot. Do you find yourselves, utilizing Twitter a lot since you want bite-sized stuff? You're just kind of scrolling through the feed to get your quick updates. And is that, where you're getting a lot of the information you're getting?
Yeah, Twitter works for me for that, definitely. Although I notice a direct correlation between how busy I am and how often I tweet.
And the fact that the tweets go down, right?
Yeah, so I'm a little bit, I need to balance that out. I'm taking more than I'm giving in Twitter at the moment, so I should definitely sort that out. But I find that helpful.
Yeah, I'm a little behind the times. Thank goodness I have an amazing PR company. Not everybody does, but Davies and Dixon, they're here on Blab. Love you guys. They really keep me afloat on Twitter. It's never been my thing. I've split between Instagram, Facebook, just kind of whatever I find.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, I agree.
So kind of talking a little bit about content and where to spend our time, and we have so many choices nowadays. Carrie, by the way, it looks like you may have frozen, so we might need you to recall in. Oh, she dropped audio only, but it's okay. So speaking of, there's so many massive choices that we have today, like unbelievable amounts of choices. Alex was actually asking a question about, how can we choose what associations to be a part of, and how do we utilize these associations to get in front of planners. And then we'll kind of cycle in a little bit as well with social tables question. So we'll start with social tables question, actually, is that, there's so many networking events to attend. You have MPI, PCMA, all these, a million different events, right? Every single day. How do you choose which one to go to and which one's valuable?
From our point of view, we try not to stress too much about it, because every networking event is going to have some value in it. So it's more the decision we make is which are the ones we can commit to over a period of time. So sometimes that's a logistic thing. Like, do we have the right people in the right place that can go to those events regularly and, turn up and stay showing? And so that just might be a fit between where we are and where those events happen and how often they happen. Sometimes that's just it. Because like I say, there's never been a networking event that I've been to in the events industry that hasn't been helpful, where I haven't learned something or met someone new or had a serendipitous connection. They're always, always, always valuable. So I think don't maybe wind yourself up too much about the choices. Dip your toes in some, but then only select the ones you can truly commit to. And that actually might be just as good as you met 2 or 3 people that you really felt a bond with, and so you want to be there, or that they happen to be in the right place at the right time and you can always turn up. So it's as easy as that for us, really.
Awesome.
And because as well, you know, our industry is so, I was going to say incestuous, but that's not quite the right word, but really entangled up, right? So there's tentacles that cross over all of those networks anyway. So chances are people are in different ones, and just bit by bit, your network will expand, even if you only commit to one of them.
Great. Awesome. Carrie, how about you?
I am back, so I'm just catching up, but I'm reading the question from Social Tables. Oh, you know, you really have to kind of find where your group is and where your people are, and what your tribe looks like. You know, for me, I tested out all of the different groups and found that PCMA really works well for me where I am in my career. Obviously, I have to make the plug for the Association for Women in Events. We're an inclusive community for women, made up of people that are coaches in the industry and mentors and really ready to support women in the events industry. So I say check that out. Check them all out. Decide for yourself, for sure. But definitely thank you, Kelsey, for putting that up in the live chat, womeninevents.org. And find your people, find your group.
I find it's one of those things too, as well, to kind of piggyback a little bit off Marie Claire, to talk about it being depth rather than breadth. I know that Sean from Crowd Magazine can go nuts when I quote Gary Vaynerchuk, but I think a lot of times, a lot of people are like, I have to be in every single one in so many different places, and you know, you end up doing like a lot of like that jack of all trades, master of none kind of thing. But what I found is you find one that you really want to join the board, get actively involved, and you get to meet everybody in there. And then that's how you really make your marketing. I think you get your most value from it as well. That's what I've seen as well for on the depth rather than breadth side for sure. And then Alex apparently is in all of them. So speaking of Alex had a question too as well. I think this might go back to general away from associations, but he was kind of talking about how it's really tough for example, a new up and coming planner or vendor to join some of the associations because, you know, they're $400 a year, you know, plus all of the meetings you have to pay for, you know, plus if you want to go to any of the national conventions, you're paying for flights. It's really tough to be really actively involved. How would you guys say is the best way to get in front of planners? Like, what's the best strategy that you guys have seen?
For me, well, on the planner side, you know, I've worked with a lot of companies that unfortunately don't support professional development or these types of organizations. So it's all about finding your champion and sponsorship in the industry. If I always try to grab a scholarship wherever they're possible. And if I can't do that, then I've worked with vendor partners to, you know, work out meetings where they're able to support my registration for either an industry group or a conference. So it's just working your connections, working the scholarships, you know, reaching out to let people, even the organization, know that you can't quite afford what they're doing right now, and they'll work for you. I know that we at the Association for Women in Events, we work out an invoicing plan, and you know, we're a network of champions in the industry, so we're more than happy to support getting newer planners in the door. Yeah,
I mean, as a supplier, so I'm totally with Alex. It is really difficult for those of us with new things to get in front of planners. So, for example, at the trade shows, oh, Alex has just said this exactly the same. There's no tiered system. So if I want to buy a booth at the Springtime Expo, I'm paying exactly the same as multi-millions, billion-dollar C-Vent is. And it's a big deal for a smaller company to get to. And so sometimes the way those structures are might mean that cool, new, exciting, innovative tech from, you know, that's from under a new rock just can't get out in front of everybody because the costs are really, really high. So it's nice to see some of those shows and conferences introduce like startup alleys and emerging tech spaces and creating opportunities for people with the smaller budgets to turn up and participate. So I would really, really encourage those things to keep on going. And ditto with the association memberships, you know, that there aren't tiered structures with all of them for students to necessarily participate or junior staff members. And so that's an interesting challenge for us too. We want to get all of our team involved in them, but you know, some people may have only been with us a few weeks or they're very early in their career. How do we manage all that and do it for 30 people all at once? So yeah, I'm a big fan of the tiered structures, and yeah, and with the trade shows, finding ways to encourage, you know, the woman with a fantastic new invention that's just in beta that could really do with being in front of all of these people and that the planners would love to engage with, but you know, $4,500 US and return flights and hotels in very expensive capital cities might preclude. Yeah.
True. Very true. And I like the idea that Carrie came up with saying you should have your vendors pay for you to go. And now all of a sudden I'm panicking because I'm sure all my clients are watching this and I'm going to get like 15 emails saying, hey, Will, want to sponsor me to go to ISIS Live? You know?
So find your champion, whether that's a vendor or not.
That's true. There you go. And I love the idea that's about the relationships too, as well, that you guys build. I mean, that's, I think, a very central theme that's kind of been happening through this entire blab. So I'm going to kind of like take a right turn, and we got a lot of great questions in here, but they're kind of going a little bit more away from what we were originally talking about, but that's okay, because that's what this show is about. So the one question, quick hitter question that we have is from Crowd Mics. Mr. Sean asked, who do you guys look up to in the events industry?
Oh.
It's a big one.
So,
Mind blown.
There's some names that you wouldn't potentially know. Some people who are innovating small little new technology features and things that are happening around the edges. So I look up to people who are pushing the boundaries, I guess. So I can link you to some of these things that are bubbling up. But for me, it's about people who don't take the status quo and stick with it. Interestingly, you might say too, given that Double Dutch is one of our big competitors, I actually have a great deal of time for the CEO and we chat really regularly. For me, his journey of raising all that capital they've done, similar to us, but on a smaller scale, I really admire that. And growing a company from zero to the hundreds of people that is, from a business person point of view, fascinating story. And it's great that he will share quite a bit of that with me. So that's someone that I look up to.
Awesome. Carrie?
Yeah, there are just so many industry icons and pioneers that I could name that many of you would know. But for me, it's more about the lessons that I've learned from people that I've worked with on some good, some bad. What kind of boss do I want to be because of things that people in the past have taught me, whether, again, good or bad. And I'm always really inspired by brave people. So the co-founders of Women in Events and the board of directors that have come in to a new organization that we're building from the ground up and just are willing to get their hands dirty for something that they really, really believe in. I'm inspired every day, and it's not just by icons in the industry. It's by people who have a lot of drive and ambition and who are excited about their products and services or their events. So it's too many people to say here, but trailblazers.
I think that's the same theme. It's the same theme for both of us. It's down with mediocrity. There's just no time for that.
I love trailblazers.
I love it. Speaking of trailblazers, so Debbie asked the question of where do you see the future of events going for women in the next 5 to 10 years? So, who's trailblazing and what's kind of coming out of that, and where do you guys see the future going?
Oh, man.
One of the things that inspired me to join the Association for Women Events was the thing that we've talked about in one of the committees there, is that what's interesting for women in events right now is we're everywhere, really everywhere, until you get to a certain management level. And then all of a sudden we're not there. And that's the thing I would really like to change in the industry, is that from the outside, it looks like it's actually a very woman-dominated space, but it's only really up to a certain level. And I would love to see that change. I would love to see more women running their own businesses, more women running their own agencies, more women in senior corporate positions, owning, managing, making decisions, and being up at those levels. And I think we can do that in the next 5 to 10 years. I think that is actually what is changing, that there's a recognition that it's going to happen, and it is happening, and we're seeing it already. And so that's my belief, and that's what I'm striving to do too.
Yeah, I was going to say the exact same thing, those C-suite positions and, getting our seat at the board table and having, a shift in perception where organizations realize that we have a lot more to offer than just logistics and multitasking, that from a higher organizational level, we can bring a lot to the table. So that's exactly right.
Awesome. I love it. Alex had so many good questions today. I'm like mind blown by how good they are. So I think this one's also really well timed. If I can do this, grab this while doing it, because it's how often do I get to use props in this show? But Alex asked the question of, as a new business owner, I want to be able to work with incredible Wonder Women. which is ironically, this movie is coming out next week. And there's been a lot of talk about how Gal Gadot's role as Wonder Woman is going to be this new breakthrough role to show, how strong a woman can be and how it doesn't have to be this typical role, right? So the question that he asked is, do you have any recommendations for empowering future female employees? Maybe it's to help them start their own company or for them to grow those ranks and kind of break through and help achieve what you guys are kind of talking about.
Yes, get involved, especially at women in events. With the Association for Women in Events, womeninevents.org. I'm going to plug it until it's dead. But, we're starting the conversation. Get involved in the conversation. This isn't a conversation by women for women alone. We want to involve men. We need to involve men. We understand that you need to understand how we work. We want to understand how you work and how we can work better together. I love you, Alex, already. I can't wait to talk to you offline after this.
Yeah, totally. There's some simple things that we do in the business to make sure it's a really supportive place for women to be in. So we've got a big development team, and I'm really proud that more than half of our developers are women. That's awesome. But we're careful with the small things because it's actually the small things that really matter. So just the culture, we just got to be checking on this kind of bro culture. We're not sort of making inappropriate sort of jokes or comments or talking too much about killer rock stars and having that kind of sort of male stereotypical superpowery hero-y things going on that might be uncomfortable for a woman and that don't necessarily connect with her and what she wants from a space. So little sort of things that just mean that people can be comfortable being who they are. And I think that's quite easy to overlook actually in the business environment, especially in a technology development environment that can be very blokey without even realizing it. So
it's very interesting. I never thought about that you have that like dual layer persona, the tech world as well as the event world kind of colliding into each other. Very interesting.
Yeah. That's a tough space for a woman to be in.
Yeah. We try to kind of encompass women in business as a whole. We found ourselves kind of looking into that because women in business, all business, tech, events, and otherwise.
Hey, Carrie, you're kind of cutting in and out. Is she doing it for you too, Marie Claire?
Very slightly.
Very slightly. Kind of cutting in and out. Her poor internet. She's just not loving her today.
I can refresh again.
Yeah, I think you might need to refresh one more time. Good old Blab. We got
bye, guys. I'll be right back.
That brings up a great transition. We only got a couple more minutes left, so a couple more questions for you guys, and then we'll head out to the pro show so then we can ask some more questions. So the question that I have for you, Marie Claire, is what is, if you had to pick one tip where you like this could save someone's life and make their planning process way easier for event planning, what would you give them as their one tip?
From the event app point of view, it's the event app Bible. Okay. There it is in all its glory, every possible option from event apps. I will pull it up and put it in the comments. The Event App Bible is a really, really good place to go to. I would do that. And otherwise, I would say drink a lot of coffee.
Right, and Red Bull, apparently.
Yeah. Awesome. Oh, thanks, Debbie. That's awesome.
Awesome. Cool. So tell us, can you kind of explain a little bit about like the Event App Bible and like, how that really makes their planning process easier, just a little bit, just so like, is it just explaining all this so people can see all the choices that they have? Like, how does it?
Exactly that. Julia Solaris and the Event Manager blog have put it together, and they reach out to all of us who are involved in something to do with mobile and technology. So it's not just event apps, but it's all of the options for device specific. And they ask us to be really honest about our pricing and our structures and our service and our features and all of those things. And they present it in a way that you can actually assess the options. And they revise it regularly enough. They don't actually audit it, interestingly, so it's possible that there might be some people saying things that aren't necessarily fully true, but on their heads be it then if they're found out afterwards. But at least it's one place, so I think it's a big job for them to do, and it's great that they do it on behalf of the industry, and it's a useful resource. We of course use it to keep an eye on who's coming and going. You can see apps are being born and then they die, and so it's nice for us to see who's actually sticking out and staying with it. So it's also a good resource tool for us as well.
Awesome. Okay, what about you? What would be your one go-to tip that would be for making a planning process easier?
One. Ooh, okay, that's way too hard. I will keep it short though.
Or two.
I don't have an app, believe it or not. I don't have an app. I'm sorry to say. I'm app light. Social media heavy, app light. For me, it's using your resources and using the resources that already exist and not trying to reinvent the wheel, as I did for many, many years early on. Again, use your suppliers, use your partners. They may already have a great function book or, event Bible that they've seen another client do that they might be able to provide you with. So really use your resources. Again, don't reinvent the wheel. Someone's done it probably. Go to your mentors.
Awesome. I love it. You guys kind of already started to mention some really awesome resources that you guys want to share. So I'd love to just kind of like do a brain dump for all the coolest, what's the coolest book that you've read, an awesome podcast you're listening to, a great blog to check out. What kind of resources do you guys want to share with everyone out there? As we're kind of going through, if you can throw them over in the chat on the right-hand side, and I'm going to try to catch them and put them in the show notes as we go.
Wow, that's a lot of multitasking.
It's okay.
I'm trying to do it.
Oh my gosh. So I think a lot of Corbin Ball. I love reading his stuff. So I would say his website is The Go. That's definitely worth a look. That's corbinball.com. He amalgamates all sorts of information from all around the world about technology and what's happening and trends in particular. Quite like he does a lot of top 10s. That's kind of helpful. I think that's a good one. The book I'm reading right now, actually, I've finally gotten around to Elon Musk's biography, in terms of inspiring people. It's pretty great. Makes me feel really inferior to how he can do what he's done in the time he's done and have all the children he's had, et cetera, et cetera. Pretty impressive. So that one I've found, that's quite a nice one to help keep the bar high. Yeah.
Okay, I'm super jealous because is it Kylie? She got to see him speak at an MPI event, that's nuts. Or wow. You say Corbin or Elon Musk? If it's Elon Musk, then I'm blown away.
Yeah. Cool. Okay, Corbin's cool too.
Okay, Corbin's awesome too. Corbin's amazing too as well. Corbin was on a show like 5 or 6 episodes ago too as well. So you guys all have to go check that one out too.
Yeah, Corbin's a good one. For apps, I do have one app that I use that I'm just starting to use. It's called Mindfulness Daily. And I've been reading a lot on mindfulness and being more present and being more thoughtful. And I think that, again, for women in business, huge resource. I'll put that up on the side. Obviously, I just plugged it on the live chat, but womeninevents.org. We have a great blog, some great bloggers that are members of ours and part of our board. So make sure that you visit our blog and not just our website. Definitely join to be a part of the discussion, join a committee. We're doing some really great innovative things in the way of education and events that are coming up that I think are really going to wow people and be really different than what already exists in the event space. So we'll connect you with women in events after this if you have.
And the other thing I'm doing is going through my LinkedIn connections to the people that that do inspire me and I feel connected to, and reading their LinkedIn Pulse publication. So I've actually started, I guess, moving away from aggregated blog sites and just following on LinkedIn some of that content, which is really awesome. And then you get that personal connection with them too.
Sure, that's very true. You can always reach out to them and talk to them a little bit more beyond just those typical comments in the blog, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, one recommendation too as well. You mentioned Mindfulness Daily, so I instantly think of all the crazy apps. I don't know, I probably mentioned it a couple times on the show, but I highly recommend Headspace is a great app too for that as well. Which what I like about it has a web version as well. And so, for example, me and Mike McGowan are friends on it, so we compete for who can have the longest stretch of meditating, and basically who has the most days in a row. So
meditating, is that a thing?
Yeah, wow. Yes. And for all those who know Mike McGowan, he is a hugely competitive person. So it kind of helps, I think, both of us getting things done. Though I think because of all my travel, I'm definitely losing to him now, though. So, any other cool resources that you guys want to share? Books, apps, anything like that? What blogs to read?
I'm all out of inspiration. I think it must be coffee time for me.
Yeah, and you don't even want to see the stuff that I read on the plane because it's It's
Absolutely.
just
And then just so people have an idea, where can people reach you guys? Is there, Twitter is the best place. Where is the best place to reach you?
LinkedIn for me, so I'll post that shortly. LinkedIn and Twitter. Yeah, I'm in and out of there all day, every day. And also email, good old fashioned, just flick me a note and I can call.
Awesome. And Carrie, what about you?
Yeah, and I just did the same. I just put my email address on the live chat for anyone to reach out to me. I can make myself available to you via phone. I'm always flying all over the country. I'm happy to go and sit with you, buy you a cup of coffee, talk about women in events or business or events or any combination of the three. I'm also on Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat. I'm heavily Snapchatting right now, so I'll put all of those on the sidebar. Definitely connect with me. Let's talk about how to elevate women and in the events community.
Awesome.
Definitely.
And for those who might not be in the chat who are watching this pre-recorded or maybe driving along the way, what would you can you just read out what your email is just so they can get that?
Oh, of course.
I can do that. Okay, go ahead.
It's Marie Claire, MARIE CLAIRE at showgizmo.com. But pretty much anything at showgizmo.com will reach me.
Awesome.
And I am Carrie, CARRIE at womenevents.org.
Awesome. Very cool. Well, thank you guys so much for being on the show. It was just like a huge honor, like so insightful to hear from your guys' experience and ideas that you kind of came through, and definitely inspired me to build awesome relationships with my clients and also other vendors as well as a planner myself. So I just thank you to you guys so much for both being here. Just huge applause to both of you.
Well, thank
you. You're awesome.
Mad
props.
So give him lots of props.
mad props, guys. Mad props.
Awesome. If you guys want to just hang around for just a second. So for all those who are tuned in right now, as you guys know, this is a regular show. It used to be weekly, but now we are doing it monthly. Alex asked a really great question, which I don't have the answer to right now off the top of my head, which is when the next show is. But if you are loving this show and you're having a good time, right above my head is a little follow button. Click that. You'll get notified whenever I post a new show, schedule it, and everything like that. Click that follow button. Also, highly recommend heading over to our blog, which is helloendless.com/blog. And that's where I'll be posting the show notes and the recording, all the links that we talked about as well. And if you are watching this on the show notes and or watching this post-recording, you're not watching this live, well, you're definitely missing out. As all the people in the chat know, this is just an absolutely awesome experience to tune in live because you get to answer the questions. So we really hope that you tune in, subscribe, and we see you next time live on #EventIcons. But huge props to all the audience and everyone out there in TV land for being here. And we'll see you guys all next time on #EventIcons. See you guys.